Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about some fragrances I've been sampling from the house of Arquiste. I think I have about 8 here to talk to you about, so if you're interested to hear my thoughts, stick around. Okay, first for a bit of background, the house of Arquiste is an American house, and most of the fragrances are done by Rodrigo Flores Rue, and the concept is that they pick a place and time in history and create a fragrance that imagines that moment. The first one I'm going to talk to you about is this one. It's called L'Or de Louis, and it's based on Versailles during the reign of Louis XIV, the Sun King. And it's based on the concept of what it would have been like to have been in the orangery, the orange house, the greenhouse where they stored the orange trees over winter. And the idea is that they had this huge building that stored all of the king's orange trees. And when he would visit with his court to show off his amazing collection of trees, they would light bonfires inside the orangery so that they would be warm and also that the trees might blossom and give off their fragrance during the winter when the king was visiting. This actually ended up being one of my favorites from the house, and I have them each on a card here. You might be able to see on the card, I can't tell, but this fragrance has like gold flakes that are in the liquid, and you can kind of see them on the card. But this is a really beautiful, kind of old-fashioned-y white floral fragrance. I say old-fashioned because it's like a big white bouquet of flowers with orange blossom and jasmine in particular that are not super duper sweet. And there's also some iris. It's a little bit green. And it's just really classy and kind of something that you'd imagine somebody who was a classy person who would wear big white florals would wear. The interesting thing about it is that it dries down to a very nice smoke note. And the smoke note is, I would say, somewhere between, it's not like a campfire, it's not like a super woody smoke, and it's not like cigarette smoke necessarily. Kind of hard to describe, but a beautiful, kind of inky smoke note somehow. I really enjoyed this fragrance, and I think it's probably one of my favorites from the house. Next up is Boutonnière No. 7, and this one I believe is based on Paris sometime in the late 1800s, early 1900s, during an opera, where the gentlemen who attend the opera would wear a gardenia in their buttonhole, but also it imagines kind of that smell plus the smell of early fougères. So it's a fougère with a gardenia note, and I really, really enjoyed this one as well. It has a strong lavender that's very velvety alongside this creamy, rich gardenia. At the same time, it's very green, has a lot of oak moss, vetiver. It's interesting. It's not like a super sweet fragrance, but it has a really nice balance of sweet tonka facets and dry, green, mossy facets. I really, really enjoyed this one. I would actually consider picking up a travel size or something, but at the same time, it does remind me of two fragrances that I already own, which are Les Indomptables Fougère Emeraude and also Descendre from Les Abstraits. Those are both also kind of like traditional masculine fragrances with a strong central white floral note. This one is probably a little bit easier to wear than either of them. It's a little bit softer, but really beautiful. Next up is L'Etrog Acqua, and this one I believe is based on, I think, Calabria in Italy. I don't know when, but it's basically a lemony summer fragrance, and it's quite nice. It has a gentle, softly sweetened lemon forward profile. It doesn't go into a cleanery direction. It's very well done. It's also very long-lasting, I'd say. But if anything, the complaint that I'd have about it is that it's not super memorable. It's just a pleasant kind of summery cologne, but I enjoyed wearing it. The next one is called A Grove by the Sea. I don't know the time and place that it's based on, but it is a fragrance meant to evoke a Mediterranean coastal feel, and it does that very well. It has notes that are like olive and fig leaf and a marine accord, I think. I don't know that it's super marine-y, but it is very minerally and ozonic. I actually even don't think it's very figgy necessarily, but it definitely has this kind of olive branch, olive fruit note with it. It's also very salty. It does an excellent job of taking you to a place mentally that is Mediterranean and beachy and pebbly. Um, and I really liked it, but somehow I had this feeling that it was a little bit too on the nose. And I think that's probably something that I feel about many of the Arquiste fragrances is they're meant to transport you to a place and a time, but and they do a really good job of doing that. But sometimes I feel like they're too literal and maybe not. I don't know if wearable is the right word, but they don't feel lived in. Like they don't feel human. This one is very beautiful, but the whole time I was reminded of another fragrance that I've sampled that's in a similar vein called Oliver by Stranger's Perfumery. And that one is a really lovely take on this kind of Mediterranean, slightly piney, olive, salt, fig fragrance profile. And that one has this beautiful kind of chypre base, and it's much more kind of casual. This feels very shiny and new and almost like Tom Ford-esque. It's beautiful, but ultimately it's not something that I would wear. All right, next up is one of the newest fragrances from Arquiste. It's called Nocturnality. I believe it's a 2025 release, and also by Rodrigo Flores Rue. The inspiration here is New York City in 1996, and kind of like the gay club scene. It's a leather fragrance, and it's supposed to have a bunch of animalic notes like hyrax and castoreum. This one is interesting because I was expecting this like really challenging fragrance, but it's not particularly challenging. If you're okay with leather, it's definitely a leather forward fragrance, and that the first thing you get is this kind of blast of that ozonic, chemically leather smell. I think there's also like a latex note or like a polyurethane note or something. It smells interesting. It has elements of like permanent marker, but it's also kind of sweet in a weird way. There's definitely like a floral heart as well, like jasmine. It's really not something I'd ever be interested in wearing, but it is a nice smell. Like I could see this one being a really good candle. But again, probably a little bit too literal for me. Okay, this next one's called Tropical, and this is another one where I don't really know the backstory, but it's a tropical fragrance, and I had an interesting experience with this one because I put on quite a bit of it without like really testing it on paper before, and I really didn't like the opening or the heart notes. It has this very prominent guava accord, and many times I have experienced a guava accord. I get this kind of like overripe tropical fruits where the fruits are almost like starting to rot, and it feels a little bit slimy or even fishy. And I definitely got that when I was wearing this. And I can't remember what the floral note is here. Oh, it's champaca. But that came through really strong too. And that's another flower that I kind of struggle with because I think it smells kind of like scratchy and head shop like. So I was really dissatisfied with this fragrance. But I wore it for several hours, and hours later, in the deepest dry down where like all of the top and heart notes had faded, it has the most beautiful ambery, dark woody very classic smelling dry down. And I was befuddled because I was like, God, what smells so good? What am I wearing? And it was this, and it was a complete 180 for me, because I really hated the top and heart notes, but the base notes were some of the best that I'd smelled in a long time. And smelling it here again on card, it makes me want to revisit it because I was really enchanted by what it dried down to, and it lasted forever. I could smell it even the next morning. So it's an interesting fragrance for sure, and probably one that I'll retest. Okay, the next one is called Almond Suede, and this one is a fragrance that's gotten quite a bit of hype, and I can understand why. It is a really striking composition. It's a super sweet almond, orange blossom, sticky, resinous leather fragrance. And it also has a strange concrete note, which totally comes through. It's by one of my favorite perfumers, Khalees Becker, which is part of the reason I bought these samples actually is because I was exploring more Khalees Becker fragrances. And she did two for Arquiste, this one and Indigo Smoke. And I wasn't able to get my hands on a sample of that one. But Almond Suede is this really just, it's beautiful. It's very big, it's huge, very powerful. It's sweet. It's like super sweet, gourmand, almond, orange blossom. And in that sense, it reminds a lot of a few fragrances. So if you can imagine by Killian's Love Don't Be Shy and that kind of super saccharine, sticky, sweet, floral thing, gourmand, marshmallow, plus, to me, the original Narciso Rodriguez For Him Eau de Toilette, which is like famously this petrichor concrete gray men's fragrance. Those two combined with a splash of Tuscan leather, with that level of intensity across all three in this fragrance. So it's the kind of thing that you would wear to a club or to, a night on the town. But I can't imagine like picking this up and wearing it to work or for your errands. But truly a really interesting fragrance and one you should get your nose on if you can. This next one is called Infanta and Flor. And this is actually a kind of a counterpart to that first one I talked about, L'Or de Louis, because Rodrigo Flores Rude, I believe, did L'Or de Louis, which was the idea of the French king. Infanta and Flor is done by Jan Vasnier, and he was assigned to think about Louis XIV's wife, Maria Theresa, who was from Spain. And this fragrance kind of imagines their meeting when she was betrothed to him to end, one of the wars between those two countries. And it is an orange blossom immortelle leather fragrance. And I really was like kind of taken aback when I first smelled it because I was expecting something that was very feminine, floral, and sweet. In reality, this is not sweet at all. It's very leathery. It's got a little bit of a white floral element, but really only kind of like as a top note. But then it becomes this spicy, animalic a little bit, saffron, immortelle, kind of Middle Eastern smelling leather, which normally I wouldn't like, but this one works pretty well. It smells a little bit more lived in than many of the other Arquiste fragrances. Probably another criticism I'd have of this brand is that aside from having a very literal, new, sometimes kind of plasticky smell, I don't sense that there's much DNA or even really like cohesive brand direction. Anyway, Infanta and Fleur is really quite beautiful and I like it, but I struggle to imagine situations where I would wear it because it is a little challenging and not very easygoing. And ending on a high note, this one is called Anima Dulcis. This is, I believe, another Rodrigo Flores Rue fragrance, and it's meant to imagine a Mexican convent in the 1600s, I want to say. And this is a gorgeous, woody, cacao, chili pepper fragrance. And I was really bowled over by this on skin. On card now, it doesn't smell nearly as enchanting, but on skin, it is this warm, spicy, woody, cacao, chocolatey kind of fragrance with a very powerful, piquant chili pepper note. And the thing that was really nice about it on skin is that chili pepper capsaicin spice thing made it feel very sparkly and human in a strange way. It also definitely recalls like an artisan, handmade Mexican sort of vibe. Very woody, and I know that there's the suggestion in the brief of it being at a church, but it does have kind of a sacred or liturgical feel about it without being incensey or frankincense at least. I want to say there's also vanilla here. I don't know if vanilla is a listed note, but kind of like a dry vanilla plant smell, not like a baking vanilla. But yeah, overwhelmingly, it's this cacao, woody, chili pepper thing, and I really, really enjoyed it. Anyway, folks, those are my thoughts on a few fragrances from the House of Arquiste. I would love to know down in the comments if you've tried any of these fragrances or any other fragrance from Arquiste. What do you think of the house? Do you think they have a DNA? Tell me what your favorites are, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye-bye.